Hello and welcome to the 8th episode of the Artist Podcast. We have a very exciting episode for you today with artist and painter Gordon Dalton. We cover topics from the importance of local talent, scarecrow festivals and the benefits of supporting your fellow artists. Gordon has a long and impressive history within the art world with exhibitions dating back to 2003. And within the podcast I believe you get a nice outline of the path that's led him to be where he is today. I'm your host Thomas Stein, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Charlie Wood. So please sit back and enjoy. So what I've got written down here, I guess we'll start at the beginning. I believe it's true you come from Middlesbrough. Is that correct?
That's true. That is true, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about your path of education and where that's led you?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know what an artist was at all till I don't think I went into a gallery till I was about 19.
Really?
I kind of like a lot of people. I mean, this is a long time ago, so
yeah.
Maybe a bit hazy, but I think I was kind of on to do all right at school when I wasn't looking about, but I wasn't like most people. You were just like either going to go into a trade or maybe get an apprenticeship. But I joined the Navy at 15.
All right.
On the back of that, I would get decent grades, and then I didn't get decent grades. I completely flunked it, and they said, "Well, no worries, just come back next year." And in that year, after school, I started I say apprenticeship. It was more it was part apprenticeship, part YTS. Just working as a electrical engineer.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a bit of a. I mean, all around this, I was always. I mean, I was saying to someone yesterday actually. It was almost better then because I didn't know what I was doing. So
right, okay.
I was drawing and comics and record covers and all that. And like just mates were like more like music and skateboarding and BMX. But then like all these contracts got cancelled after my apprenticeship to go overseas because of the first Gulf War, and they said, "Oh, why don't you go back to college, do more day release?" I was like, I absolutely hated it. I mean,
right.
I wasn't very good at it. And when I'd go on these day releases, I'd be looking at like some of my mates were in the art department, kind of like music scene type stuff, and but I was like going on this day release at college, and then going back to work in the factory. And these lads were like 18, 19, out, same as me. And I was going back to work, and all like these fitters and engineers were all like in their 50s, and they all had like like absolute proper set of blokes. Don't get me wrong, but it was just like kind of like one mindset.
Right.
Just
I understand.
They did, and I guess maybe like not through art at all, but like kind of like probably like from music and stuff like that. It was kind of like I just wanted to get out of here, really.
Get out.
It was like not that many opportunities. But anyway, they sent me back to college and went to Hartlepool. I was thinking I might do something like stage design or something like that.
Right.
But
was that at the Cleveland
they said,
College?
"Well, why don't you just do a foundation?" So went to Cleveland College of Art and Design, and then someone visited from Cardiff College of Art and Design, and he was from Sunderland of all places, but he said, "Oh, you like it down in South Wales? It's like Teesside." I was like, "Well, kind of, mate, because I kind of want to get away."
Yeah. So, yeah. It's not what you wanted to hear, was it?
There was something quite comforting. I mean, I love foundation. It was just like it was such a laugh. You were doing different things all the time. Met some really nice people. I'm still friends with some of them.
Yeah.
But obviously that was in Middlesbrough, which is kind of like what I knew. And then I went away to South Wales, and it being like Teesside was kind of a comfort, but I was like a fish out of water, really. At art school, it was just a bunch of like posh kids, and
Yeah, it's not. So
and I think that's same for a lot of people. But I went there mainly because they had like a student exchange to America, so I did that for a year.
right, that sounds really good.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, I still think I actually hated it at the time because it was probably the first time I'd ever been abroad. I mean, I was 21 by this point.
Right, okay.
Then I went. They said, "Oh, you're going to Manhattan," and then they give me this envelope. It was like Manhattan, Kansas. It was in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, right.
I mean,
that's a proper scheme.
I guess over the years I've romanticized this story, but that genuinely happened. And then so I kind of like I had a vague note. Well, I knew that this was in my second year, so I knew who like Robert Rauschenberg was. I knew who certain kind of writers, William Burroughs, were from Kansas. So I was thinking, well, they must have gone to this university at least. But I got there, and they didn't go to that university. They'd all been to this one that was 600 miles down the road. and I was going. They put me into like an engineering college, which just felt like absolute twist of irony that I'd been chucked into an engineering college. So I think I lasted about 3 months, and then I kind of, again, going back to that music and movies and stuff, I was like, I'm just going to do that big romantic gesture. And I literally dropped out and went to the nearest Greyhound stop and just went to Los Angeles. And it was just the best time of my life ever. So.
Yeah, that sounds, very good. Very, spontaneous sort of, doesn't it? Do you think it's important for developing a creative to go experience a different culture? Or do you reckon,
say that again, mate.
Do you reckon it's important for a developing creative to go experience a different culture? Or do you think it's something you can just grow naturally, like in a homegrown sort of situation?
I think you can do both. I mean, but like that was like the first time I'd been abroad. I think it was the first time I'd been on a plane, and it was. I'd always had this thing about like wanting to get away, and then that kind of. Then you're always kind of thinking, "Oh, I want to go back,"
right?
And that kind of those two things have been kind of played out throughout my work. There's always been like almost that the grass is always greener on the other side, or everything beautiful is far away. That's kind of like a little theme that runs through it. But I do worry that I was like one of the last students to get a grant, so like a proper grant,
right? Yeah,
like from your local authority. And when I go into colleges now, like people don't even. There's not that many people go away,
right? No,
to study. Like it was the norm that you went away. That was part of your education. But it's not for everyone, and you just can't do that now financially.
No,
so
it's a different situation, isn't it, when it comes down to finances for housing?
Yeah. But that has kind of its benefits. I mean, you can see it in Borough and Hartlepool that there's that energy and complete just fuck it, let's do it. That group of students can bring really energize what's going on.
Yeah,
it's a nice contrast.
I've never thought about that before, but obviously when people are forced to sort of stay at home, that will obviously have a greater effect on the culture of that sort of town when the talent isn't moving away and being shipped away somewhere else to develop it there.
And if they get frustrated, then they make stuff happen.
Yeah.
But it's having people there to support it. And I think in Middlesbrough that it's definitely been there with the auxiliary and Bobby and Steve, Pineapple.
Yeah, the art weekend and everything like that. It's just popping up, isn't it? It's on a rise at the moment. The Middlesbrough art scene. I think it's very encouraging.
Yeah, I mean, it's great that there's people. I mean, there's loads of people that Bobby can go. Bobby can go do a day's teaching and see work, and then 6 weeks later, he can be showing the work of a first or a second year, but he might be showing it again alongside someone who's been doing it for 60 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is amazing, because I'm definitely getting towards the other side of it. I'm not. Yeah, so there is a benefit. I mean, I'd always try, and if you get the chance to do anything, I'm kind of like a never say no.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll always try and say yes to as much things, but always have that. It's good to have a base and remember. God, I was going to say like remember your roots or something. That sounds just rubbish, but kind of like having that kind of don't forget where you're from.
Yeah, you're always going to be influenced by your hometown when it comes down to the work you're making, because it's sort of like the basis for your foundations. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's a kind of a bit of a glib quote, but it's like, and wherever you don't shit on people wherever you go.
No, yeah, obviously not.
Like, don't shit on people on the way up, because they'll shit on you on the way down.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, just be nice, don't be an arsehole.
Yeah, always be like, I agree, 100%. So, I believe it'd be correct if we were to pigeonhole you as one sort of medium, it would be as a painter. Would you say that's correct? Yeah. Can you tell us some more about your craft and what you're trying to portray with it?
I mean, it's kind of, it's definitely finding, like all of those things we just talked about still have like a major part to play with. There's kind of like I guess in maybe the past 5, maybe even like the past 10 years, I've just been like throwing off baggage and what's meant to be cool or contemporary or what's meant to be the right thing. And for a while, I didn't do that. I was chasing this idea of success, like you had to make a certain kind of work and be in certain shows, and
right,
it's just exhausting. And I'd always painted. I trained as a painter, even when I was doing films and stuff like that, or different objects and stuff. I was always painting, but I wasn't showing it. And then just after a while, it just got really frustrated and kind of like I didn't know who I was fooling or who I was kidding, and I felt really like dishonest. So the work's kind of come out of trying to be the combination of like building up experiences and knowledge and influences, and then almost like trying to cast it all off. So you're in this kind of, you're trying to collect stuff, but then it's like you've got to throw all that off to try and be yourself. And it goes, I said this a couple of times in interviews, it's just, I think lately I've kind of, it's not like sentimentality or nostalgia, it's just trying to find a sense of belonging, and the work has led more to having been full of stuff to it being stripped out and revealing this kind of, they're landscapes by any other name. And I mean, it sounds like a massive grand gesture, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But especially maybe, especially when you're near the coast or when you're near the countryside like we've got, you've got to just try to reclaim that subject matter, like from cliche. Yeah. It's like we're not all little dots of woolly sheep and boats, but then, those have been subjects for years and years, and so a lot of it's playing with the idea of what is a landscape, or where is that landscape, what's the idea of a place. But then I've got to trip myself up into making mistakes. So sometimes if I chuck in a sheep, or if I chuck in a trawler, like a picture you would see in like a Whitby tourist shop.
Oh, right, yeah, a charity shop, one that's been there for a...
Yeah, kind of like how do I keep it, or do I get rid of it? It's like little things like that most of the time when I'm making them, I'm thinking purely about solving these problems, like how to make a painting. But
Yeah.
I'm quite interested in populism and cliche. But kind of trying to reclaim landscape as a contemporary subject.
Yeah, that's really really interesting. You've just started working for an online publishing company, I believe. The T's as a writer. Would you be willing to talk about that a little?
Yeah, I can say a little bit.
Just a
You've
little
probably
bit.
done more research,
I,
than I have.
really.
Yeah, yeah. So I was, I knew I know more. Well, no, do I? I know Lisa, who's got an arts council grant to kind of finish a piece of work. I guess that started a couple of years ago at the last Middlesbrough Art Weekend,
Right.
where she was collecting people's stories, and then it's kind of grown out of that.
So it's just from something that started at the Middlesbrough Art Weekend. That's where the entire publishing sort of
Yeah,
companies
but
came.
it's kind of split into. She's got this project called Teesside Rising, and then Tees Online is to get other people to write about what's going on. So I recognise. I think Bobby's doing something, but like all of the other names that are kind of. But anybody, as far as I know, anybody can contribute.
Right. Okay.
So there's people that are maybe like suggest certain subjects and stuff like that. But I'm kind of interested in looking at what art and culture. I hate that word, but creativity.
I'm quite a fan of the word culture.
Like what,
I like it.
Yeah, God. Like what's important to people? Like who decides what culture is?
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at what creativity is in like its broadest sense. So, some of us are artists, some of us are musicians, writers, poets, all the, like the classics. But like some of us, some people do the gardens. Some people make a scarecrow every year for the Scarecrow Festival in Broughton.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people will, kind of make little wooden men for the gardens on the allotment stuff.
I have a mate called Sam, and his hobby is stealing pint glasses from pubs, and he just has a big collection of them in his room. That's his culture. He looks for the nicest ones from the weird IPAs and all that sort of stuff, and has a big collection of them.
We kind of like, that's why there's like, it can be why culture in big letters like art and writing and theatre gets looked down on. It's because it's spoken in kind of highfalutin terms and looks down on other people's culture.
Yeah, it can be pretentious easily. It becomes pretentious.
I mean, the Scarecrow festivals are just amazing things.
I bet they are. I bet they're quite scary though.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's someone who did The Vicar of Dibley.
Right.
Which was like something out of a horror film.
Yeah, I bet. That's right.
But it's taken over completely in East Cleveland. Everyone's really sad it's been cancelled this year. That's like the biggest cultural event that could have for them.
That could have happened.
Yeah. We do one every year, but it's like I was talking to Lisa about sport. We should talk about it in the same way we talk about sport. We should celebrate.
Right.
We should celebrate art like we celebrate like Glenn Durant winning the darts.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Totally the same thing. It's like especially if we're going to big up local people.
I guess that's difficult though, isn't it? Because like obviously you don't sort of support an artist in the same sense as like you'd support a team or a player. I guess it becomes hard to get like personally involved with someone else's work, especially when a lot of the time their work will be personal to them as well. It becomes hard for like you to sort of I don't know how to describe it, become a sort of patron of a certain artist. But I guess you should try to just support the people who come from either from your area or involved in some sort of scene that you are. If I guess.
Yeah, I guess we don't maybe do it on an individual basis, but we can do it as like a local basis.
Yeah.
And like it's not it's like you help people up.
Yeah.
Like if someone else is being successful, then that helps me. or puts, it makes me successful. If I'm doing all right, it might give someone else a leg up.
Yeah.
So if you think about it for Teesside, like everyone looks on as like, with bad perceptions, but if we all help each other out, it's good if other people are getting good stuff.
No, I agree.
And you help each other out when it's bad.
Yeah. I do think there's like quite a lot of negative sort of perceptions as well in sort of like the art world, where people don't want other people to do well because they get jealous about it. I've noticed that, especially in like local areas. If you see someone who's starting something or doing well, it obviously becomes like a sort of a common action to sort of start either taking the mick out of them or sort of put down the work they're doing.
When you get rivalries, don't you, and stuff like that.
Rivalries with people
start to form,
which is the opposite of what we should be doing.
I mean, it's totally the opposite of what we should be doing. It's you need to, it's like that don't shit on people. It's like kind of you got to help each other out.
I agree.
And that remembering, there's this idea that you've got this like career that goes like a career ladder, and it's just complete nonsense. It's that applies to what politicians, or that applies. It doesn't apply because it doesn't help anybody. It's like we should celebrate that success. That person should remember how they got there, and remember that they might be back there again. So,
yeah, it definitely is.
There's this idea of success that you've made it, and that just doesn't apply. It's like everyone's flogging the guts out.
I agree. It's not a linear path with art, is it, compared to other professions. Before like what you're doing now, you've partaken in like a large amount of projects and developments within our local community. Is there any in the recent years you'd say you took most pride in or feel had the biggest positive effect on our community?
What in particular to Teesside?
I'd say to Teesside, but if there's something you did elsewhere that you feel was like your most positive work, then that would also be a valid talking point.
Yeah, I mean, I've always like worked 3 days a week, and then done my own practice, my own painting, and I've worked with various organisations at different levels, some at the top, but the ones that always, there's two that I've worked down in the southwest. I just took a punt. I'd been made redundant from an arts council related job.
Yeah.
And I just took a punt. I was living in Cardiff, and there was this thing called the Plymouth Art Weekender, and they were just looking for someone to coordinate it, and there wasn't very much money, it wasn't very much time, and I just went in and kind of like got a good vibe off the people there, because they'd done it outside of the organisations and the institutions who'd maybe not ignored them fully, but they weren't always having an open door to them.
Right.
So it was just like, it was kind of like from the ground up, and we just it just went from nothing to like being a massively inclusive event, which had recognisable, not like some people say famous, but recognisable, bigger named artists. But then it'd have like, students were in it, but they were no different, and
it was all inclusive to different sort of experience levels.
And we just said, if you want to be in it, you can be in it, and so that can lead to problems and logistics, but that's the job of someone to organise it. And people were hanging work in their windows, on their washing lines. It felt like a Scarecrow festival in some parts, but then it felt like a massive Tate Modern show as well, and then all of the organisations wanted to come on board. And then a few other things like at a more institutional level. But when the job for Creative Factory, I mean, I should dig it out really, but it was like the job description was, it was basically they were just after someone to change the status quo and to disrupt and to represent artists.
Right.
And I knew it, I was a bit worried about it, because even though I was always up and down from Cardiff, like 5 or 6 times a year, like either for football or visiting family.
Yeah.
But I still felt like I'd become like a visitor, and I was wary of,
Regression.
we all can have a sharp,
Oh,
we all can have a bit of a sharp tongue and sarcasm, and I'd been away from Middlesbrough for 20 years.
Right. Yeah,
so. But what immediately was just found was like a scene. It's not even a scene. I just don't like words like art world and scene, but I just found like people who were just buzzing with ideas.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
absolutely.
It's very important at the moment.
Just wanted to do stuff. They would do it off their own back. They'd do it with their mates. They'd do it with the people they didn't know, and they just wanted a little bit of encouragement. I did lots of stuff for Creative Factory, but all I really did was listen to the artists, tried to push through what they said, and it was just like pouring paraffin on what was there.
Yeah.
That's all it was. It was just listening, and it seems such a simple thing to say, but people in certain positions just don't listen. They'll say they do, and then they'll say 2 years later, they'll say, "Oh, we listen to artists." 2 years later, "Oh, we listen to artists," and they just never act on it.
Yeah.
Whereas,
no, I'd agree.
Because I've got a big mouth, and
that's all right. I think everyone does. We should have seen Bobby on the show.
I just tried to act on what people were saying. So I think it's definitely my top project I've worked on, and there's obviously a little bit of local pride in that, but I think I got away with it.
Yeah. No, it's really good. Do you reckon the recent surge in popularity of the art scene in Middlesbrough is something we can continue to be on the rise with for like the foreseeable future, or do you think we're going to reach a possible plateau when we like exhaust our local creative resources?
I mean, these things that kind of come around, but what I've been working in other places was the kind of like people had felt ignored for so long that they didn't really care if people give them. They were just doing it, and so it was just putting a kind of microscope on that. And if organisations can, like with everybody, if you just pull people up, the benefits are reciprocal. Everyone does good. It's worrying with, you'll get a good group of students come out, and then you might have a slightly bad year, and it can dip and stuff like that. But this year's going to have an effect.
Yeah, it will do.
It'll be like weird, but I think there's people that, obvious people, but there's people that, especially in the artist-led and independent music scenes, that they were doing it anyway, and I think there's enough people shouting about it now, but it's just tiring shouting all the time. But sometimes you need someone there to do it.
There's a lot of work in
but
it.
Yeah, I think it's good. At least people know now.
Yeah,
they know that. So
I wonder if it would spread the news that like Middlesbrough is sort of making a name for itself. I think the Middlesbrough weekend will have a big effect on that, because it is sort of like an event that people might travel for. But I'm hoping it's something that will spread, and people will realise that Middlesbrough is definitely making a name for itself with its artistic.
And I think what they did themselves was, obviously it's been going for a few years, but especially the last one, it wasn't just in a gallery tucked away somewhere or a few sites. It was in those places, but then it was on Centre Square. It was on Linthorpe Road. It was everywhere. It kind of ran through the city. You couldn't miss it.
You couldn't know.
And that gave it a bit of a, like, these things are not one-dimensional. They should have lots of different things, but like people have got to know about it. They've got to be excited by it, and or just be curious about stuff. Like people don't go to some of these big galleries because
I don't often go to big galleries. I can't I don't like the feel of a lot of them. Some of the larger galleries, when you go inside, I just feel like even someone like me who studied art and is interested in it, even I feel like I'm being looked at if I go into like a white walls gallery. Which was...
I mean, there's if I had a choice, I want my work to be on a white wall gallery, but because that's where I think it looks best. But those places are just it's not it's the culture of those places. They're just, it's almost like this isn't for you.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. And
in the northeast, that's a pretty significant amount of you.
I feel like we're acting on it though now, and we're like, yeah, maybe it isn't, and that's why we're doing all these projects ourselves that are in many ways like a lot more interesting, a lot better, and a lot more us, I guess, in the end.
Yeah, it feels kind of, when I talk about my own work, like kind of it feels really honest, and that it's coming from the right place. It's not just, we shouldn't be begging people to. Those people should be interested in us. It's the job of those people to like, they exist fundamentally because of us.
Yeah, I'd agree.
But they also exist for people. These places need to be more inclusive, or I mean, just friendly would be a start. Just be a bit more friendly.
That's all you need, isn't it? Yeah. So, do you have any exciting plans for the future with your work? Is there anything you find particularly exciting to be working on at the moment? This is our last question, Gordon. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. No. Well, I did have. I've got a solo show at the Auxiliary, which was cancelled and it's just being rescheduled. We haven't got an actual opening night, but it's probably in the last 2 weeks of September.
Right. It's not too long now, is it? It's almost August.
Yeah, it's not too long away, and I'm pretty excited about that. Kind of, it includes some of the work that I was making when I was away, thinking about being back home, and includes some of the work that I've made since I've been back home. And then a couple of the Beep Painting Prize in October. I'm in a couple of shows in that. To get something sorted in America with a gallery, and potentially, like, I went back to America a number of times, but it was when I returned to painting, I had to stop doing this stuff, so I kind of wanted to get rid of all this other work. So we made a film about traveling to America, and it's 15 years, so I might be getting back together with the artists who I made that with.
Well, like, doing like a 15 years difference sort of thing.
Yeah, but I think we're going to do there's one idea that I mean, basically it's just two heavy metal blocks in a car driving around.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
We might. And the pretext for the last one was that we would go to where Evel Knievel tried to jump over a canyon, which is quite a futile thing, but he tried it. And that kind of idea of like, try things, keep pushing, keep going.
Right, yeah. Maybe not that one.
If you don't keep trying, you never know. But we might be doing a different spin on it, where we might be travelling around border towns within the UK, looking at just the people that live either side of the border, again in kind of like a road trip format. And then there's also a film that is might be titled Drummer Wanted, which is us picking an advert from a 1984 copy of Kerrang magazine,
right,
where it says saying, one of those Drummer Wanted influences must include, all of the heavy metal kids from 1984 and 1985. and maybe try and track and trace, to use a phrase, all of the people that either were in that band or weren't in that band, or what happened to that band, and then see where they are now and chase them down. But we've been talking about doing it for 15 years, but this is the closest we've been to doing it. So.
That's a good. Yeah, I like that.
Just more painting, more, kind of, just more and more painting. I'm so glad that I moved back home permanently. It's just been the best move, and I think it's just. I mean, I was kind of doing okay, but it's, and I'll still do okay, and I'm fine with that. Like, I'll be all right. I'll be fine, and if I can help other people, that's cool.
Yeah, that's
like, just crack on, It's.
I agree, mate. I do. Yeah. Thanks a lot. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. We'll make sure it.
No, I'm doing it.
We'll make
Thanks for setting it up, Charlie.
Yeah, good lad.